You're watching On the Issues with Chris and Mike, a speakeasy conversation brought to you by CooleyConservatives.com.
All right, everybody. Welcome to another episode of On the Issues with Chris and Mike. My good friend Mike Huebsch is with us as usual. How's it going?
Good, Chris. Good to be back. Good to have you. How was vacation? How was it?
It was good.
Good.
I was telling you off air, we were up in the St. Germain area enjoying some kayaking time, some family time.
Nice.
And I got a flyover by a massive eagle right in front of my face.
That's awesome.
It was terrific.
Yeah.
God is great, man. We as a family are very blessed. We got to spend some time like that. And the kayaking, I got to play radio, I got to nerd out with the radio. So that was fun.
Good. Yeah. I just bought a kayak this summer. So it's been a lot of fun. My son Brett and I have been out kayaking a couple of times. So
it's fun.
Yeah.
Did you get like the fishing kind, or is it the kind you sit inside?
It's the kind I sit on top. So,
okay.
Yeah. I don't.
More of the fishing kind.
Yeah. More of the fishing kind. Yep. And it's got the holes for the rods and all that. And I did some fishing out of it, but mainly we were just paddling around.
Yeah. Yeah. That's the way I get one of those fishing ones too, because it's just more comfortable that way, I think. Yep. But I do try to fish from it. Yeah. It's not as easy as a regular boat.
No.
It's a lot harder to like sit and get a good cast, you know? I don't know. I haven't perfected it yet.
Yeah. There's no below waist effort being
right.
So it's all torso and arms. So
yeah, it'd be like trying to golf while you're sitting on a chair.
Right. Yeah. It doesn't work very well.
It doesn't work with the swing.
No, not at all. No.
Well, we do have a lot of pretty serious things to talk about today.
Yeah, you can't go away anymore because things just go crazy when you're on vacation.
It was incredible. Well, even work. I mean, Thursday afternoon. No, it was Friday. It was Friday afternoon. Because it was raining up there, I took a couple of minutes and just, got the phone out and finally in front of a screen again. Holy cow, a lot happened last week while I was gone. Yeah. Wow. Yeah. And on top of it, top of the list, the passing of Lindsey Graham. I know the funeral was last week. Right. Man, what a shock that was. And I mean, honestly, just the prayers to the family and friends.
Yep. Well, that was certainly a life well lived. I mean, Lindsey squeezed everything he could out of life.
Yeah.
And it was cut way too short. Well,
and he was just back from Ukraine. So he was like working up to the end.
Absolutely. And that's it. Well, it certainly is testament once again to how fleeting it can be, how quickly life can be gone. Cherish every moment. But in the same sense, it was interesting to see in the hours following the death, the conspiracy theories already popping up that, there's somebody in Ukraine who had poisoned him or whatever. It's the society we live in these days. But in the end, it's just the fragility of life and the fact that you can pass at any given moment. But in the same sense, I would say Lindsey Graham did a great deal for this country and for his state in the time that he was given. And so good for him and Godspeed.
Yeah. Yeah, it was a surprise. I know I heard a couple of people commenting about the whole funeral and everything. And even Senator Johnson was on one of the national programs talking about it. It was a shock, but like you said, a life well lived. And
indeed.
Thank God for all of the efforts that he put in. I mean, what was he in the Air Force too? I think so. His service to the country was for a very long time.
Yeah. Well, and now the family's going to continue. The sister's in there, and she said she's going to run again, or she's going to run for office.
Excellent.
We'll see how that goes.
Yeah, it'll be fun to see if the state wants to continue with her or change course altogether.
Right. Well, this election is going to be interesting no matter what. So we'll see what the mood is.
Yeah, no kidding. Well, and that's another thing too. I mean, a lot of concern about, as I was saying, when I was catching up on what was going on in the world, and I started to see all the footage of what was going on in Spain, I actually got a clip of it. Let's jump into that one because like at the world level, there's just a lot of crazy stuff going on.
Yep.
So let me share my screen, and I'm just going to mute this too because the audio doesn't really matter all that much, but just take a look at this. And I think Dan O'Donnell, so hat tip to him. He was talking a little bit about this, and I heard Ted Cruz's podcast talking about this. There were tens of thousands of these people just rushing into Spain. And the way that the European Union is structured, I mean, is France concerned? Is Germany concerned? Is Italy concerned?
Should be.
With all these people flooding in to their continent.
Right. Yeah, no, it's, there's clearly an invasion that we saw nobody, I think, saw, well, they didn't really say that it was an invasion, but we certainly saw that from 2020 to 2024.
Exactly.
And it's similar that we're seeing in Spain. You're seeing the invasion of the Muslim population of individuals from all over the Middle East who are just spreading throughout Europe and bringing their law, their traditions and everything with them, and expecting that they're going to simply take over that particular country. And President Trump said, this was predictable.
Yeah.
You certainly saw this coming. Why you continue to allow it to happen, I can't imagine.
Well, it was a few months ago. He gave an incredible speech at the UN,
Yep.
warning them about just this kind of stuff.
Right, precisely. And it's not going to stop until there's some changes. It's when President Obama came in 2008, 2009, it was that whole move toward globalization.
Right.
And this is the fruit. This is precisely what they were talking about, is just the ability to go into and take over whatever country you wanted. I think their thought was initially that if we have that diversity, because diversity was so important, then it became equity and inclusion, which was also a lot of fun. But diversity was going to enhance every country, enhance every community. And just the opposite is true. I mean, it's not simply that we can't have opposing points of view and then come in and just coexist in some areas. There are people who choose that they won't and do not want to coexist with someone else. That's why America has been such a remarkable experiment. We were able to do that from the beginning. More importantly, from the beginning of the 20th century, as more immigrants came in, and we were able to become Americans.
Right. That whole process of assimilation is very important.
It's the only reason that we've been able to succeed, and it's the one thing that no other country seems to be able to do. And they're certainly not seeing it in Europe.
Yeah, and I the interesting thing, because I studied history in college, we were talking about it a little bit with the family around the campfire. We keep seeing these cycles repeat again and again. And as I was watching this video, I keep thinking back. I remember when I was in college studying history, and one of the things that I picked up on in the Middle Ages, when the Muslims came through with Sharia law through Spain, and Charlemagne, like in 900 AD, had to put that down. I think it might have been the First Crusade, when they were defending like the areas of France and Spain from this kind of invasion. It's all happening all over again. Like you said, because these weakened policies, why don't the Europeans ever learn?
Yeah, I don't know. And the question will be, why don't the Americans learn? Because as we continue to allow socialists to come in and take over, as we continue to allow communities to be completely overrun by those who want Sharia law, those who disregard the Constitution, those, and we'll get into this further, but those who, like our likely Democrat gubernatorial presumptive Democratic nominee, want to just undo so many things that is the basis of this country. You're seeing that throughout Europe. You're seeing that in England. You're seeing it in France. You're seeing it in Spain. You have some countries who are simply refusing, and they're locking it down and saying, no, you're not welcome here. Switzerland, Sweden, some of those countries are like, nah.
Yeah. I think Hungary has a pretty good immigration policies.
Sure. There's some for the former Eastern Europe group that
they learned their lessons.
Yeah, they did. They did. They had enough Russians invade that they didn't want any more of that activity. So, but it's frightening to watch. And you have to wonder whether or not this is a cycle that's going to be pushed back, or whether or not there will be, capitulation.
Yeah, time's going to tell on this one.
Right.
And it's just interesting to see initially they came out, some of the Spanish authorities, and we're talking about, like you said before, the whole diversity, equity, blah, blah, blah,
right,
which is code word for, we're not going to do anything about this.
Right.
And now you're starting to see even more, I guess, interest in, you better do something.
Right. Well, I mean, they tried to, especially the globalists, tried to say that nationalism is a bad thing. That the defense and pride of your own country and the things that you have built yourself up on was a bad thing, and it's racist, and it's whatever you want to call it. And the fact is that some nationalism is essential for a country to remain strong and to remain a country. The United States is the greatest country in the history of the world, not just the greatest country in the world now, but in the history of the world. And those who choose to not believe that, those who choose to want to undermine that, should not be here, should be escorted out. Now, granted, we have a system that allows us to elect people who will change our direction. That's fine. But there are some certain underlying freedoms and underlying tenets of our country that cannot and should not be violated. And they are on the cusp of being completely thrown out by a group of people that are banking on the ignorance of a large swath of the electorate.
Yeah, I think that's a really good way to put it. Another thing too that I think about is, as you were saying, this how successful America is as the melting pot that we are.
Right.
And I think it's because we're anchored in that belief of liberty.
Mm-hmm.
We're anchored in those traditional American principles. One of the reasons why I'm a conservative, because I want to conserve those American traditional principles that our founding fathers espoused, that idea of liberty. And now, to your point, we have an anti-American candidate running for governor of Wisconsin. And this we are in a tipping point. We are at a very important time of choosing right now. So it is all hands on deck, is the way I told one of our friends. I said, it's all hands on deck. We cannot, if you sit out this election, you're giving it to the Marxists.
Absolutely.
And here's the Marxists that I'm talking about. I mean, we can start with this clip of Francesca Hong, who was unbelievable. Let me share the screen properly.
She was almost cringy.
Yeah, cringy is a good way to put it.
Yeah.
It was a tweet by David Axelrod.
Right.
And he wrote, "It's answers like these that cause many to think if this chef wins the gubernatorial primary in Wisconsin, D's may be cooked."
Right.
So I'm going to put my headphones on. And through the magic of podcasting technology, we will magically have our headsets on for this part. And here we go.
You talked about your past positions that he keeps highlighting and, obviously likely would continue to do so before November should you win. One thing that they brought up as well was a post from you in 2021 where you said Americans should cancel Thanksgiving, should have done this in 1621. The post has been deleted. Republicans have been highlighting it. Do you still believe that Thanksgiving should be canceled?
I'm a chef, and one of the first meals that I made that was for the community when I was 16 was a Thanksgiving meal. I always think my hospitality background in owning a restaurant for 7-8 years, that bringing folks around the table to share conversation and build community is always a good thing. But Thanksgiving is also a time that's incredibly painful for many people in our communities. And so I think I wanted to make sure that people understood that there are multiple views, but views can evolve. And the position that I'm running for right now, and I think my background as a chef, will actually help me become a better governor that's able to bring more people to the table.
Francesca Hong, thank you for joining us. We hope to have you back on, depending on how things go next week in your primary.
There we go. So right off the bat, I'm just going to say it.
Yeah.
She thinks that we should have got rid of Thanksgiving in 1621.
Yeah, right. Well, and it goes back to the whole colonialists.
There was no 1621.
Right.
There was no Thanksgiving in 1621.
Right. Yeah.
Abraham Lincoln is the one who brought it to the Americans.
Well, I mean, yes. I mean, okay. I will give her this, that she's probably referring to the so-called first Thanksgiving with the Pilgrims.
Oh, good point.
So that's probably the first one.
Let's be fair to her. Right. Good point.
I'll give her the benefit of the doubt. But I will say that as far as that answer, it's not quite a Kamala word salad, but it's darn close. Darn close. I'm like, you were a chef. The simple question: Thanksgiving or not? And the idea that Thanksgiving is painful. I don't know who it's painful for. I mean, I understand that
when I eat too much, it gets a little uncomfortable.
It's hard for people who don't have families. It's hard for people, that type of thing. I understand that, but it's not hard for those white ponytailed gray hairs in Madison who are bemoaning the fact that this land that they sit on was actually taken from Native Americans 400 years ago, and that's why we should not have Thanksgiving. Thanksgiving isn't simply just we're thankful for this country. Thanksgiving, as you know, is an opportunity for us to set aside a day to be thankful for all that we have, our family, our faith, our country, all of the things that we have. That's what we give thanks for. And the fact that Francesca Hong and her supporters, including, as we'll find out soon, many in this community, the fact that they can think of no reason to be thankful for this country, that this country has been nothing but evil, nothing but bad, nothing but a force for strong opposition to people in our communities, in our country. The fact that that's what their point of view is, I think immediately disqualifies them from being able to be leaders. You can be an opinion, you go out and say an opinion all you want, but you should not get to be a leader unless, of course, you're in New York City and want to be mayor. So, that's, we see this continuing, and more people who are just going out there and saying, we shouldn't have Thanksgiving. There's nothing to be proud of in this country. I've never been proud of being American. That's fine. You're welcome in your opinion, but you should never be elected a leader.
That is a good point. Well, and look, when I talk about people who are anti-American, I'm not just using those terms to be, use hyperbole or be provocative in any way. I'm using those terms because that's the best way I can articulate who they are.
Well,
how do you go after the basic traditional values of this country and not be called an anti-American?
Absolutely. I mean, the thing that we need to remember with these people as we move forward. Francesca Hong, Mamdani, all of the people, the guy Al-Sad in Michigan, who was probably going to win their primary tonight. I mean, as we go forward, we need to continue to keep in mind, when they tell you who they are, believe them. Francesca Hong has told us who she is, who she believes in, and what she thinks. And one of the things that right now, there's another clip that where she's asked about whether or not we should get rid of the Supreme Court and the Senate because that's where the Democratic.
I can jump into that one.
Go ahead,
Perino. She talks about that too.
Let's talk about that one.
Yeah, let's magically get our headsets on again.
You need to not only believe who they are and believe that they are telling us who they are, but also look for the key phrase.
Toss-up states this November. The primary is less than 2 weeks away. Polls show my next guest as the Democratic frontrunner for governor. She is a state assemblywoman and a Democratic socialist, and she is not shy from far-left proposals. Take a listen to this.
Rapid fire. Do you support repealing Act 10?
Yes.
Universal child care?
Yes.
Free school meals?
Yes.
Guaranteed pay leave?
Yes.
Abolishing ICE?
Yes.
A 1-year data center moratorium?
Yes.
Breaking up big ag?
Yes.
Public grocery stores?
Yes.
Right to repair?
Yes.
Legalizing cannabis?
Yes.
Overturning Citizens United?
Yes.
A workers' bill of rights?
Yes.
A free Palestine?
Yes.
And Francesca Hong is a candidate for Wisconsin governor. And even yesterday, it looks like you will be the nominee, as another one of your closest competitors, who is even far behind you, has dropped out of the race. Is there anything in that list of what you told Hassan Piker that you disavow now?
No.
Okay. Is there anything in the DSA platform that you disagree with?
Yes.
Okay. What would that be?
Abolishing the Senate. I believe it's nonsensical and non-practical at this time.
At this time.
Exactly.
That's the key phrase.
Good catch.
Yep. And she says it frequently.
Yeah. Well, like you said before, word salad.
Yep.
She distracts you with all this BS.
Okay. Would you abolish the Supreme Court?
No. I
And
believe in checks and balances.
okay. So you consider yourself a Democratic socialist? Is that correct?
Yes.
Would you defund the Department of War?
Define it? Well, I think
defund,
it's a
take away the
all
money
right.
from the Defense Department?
No, I think it's troubling how many times they've failed an audit, and they're one of the highest funded agency. And I think that stewardship of taxpayer dollars is incredibly important, that where there may be fraud, waste, or abuse, that we make.
Like you spoke out about Minnesota's fraud, waste, and abuse. Oh, that's right. You have it.
Good point.
Sure, to vet the agency.
Okay. Would you advocate for public ownership of America's largest corporations, or those in Wisconsin?
I have to say, first of all, we are incredibly proud of our Green Bay Packers, a publicly owned NFL team. But I believe there are some manufacturing and corporation that is irresponsible to have full public control.
Well, like what?
No, I think it depends really on the type of mega corporation. We know that here in Wisconsin, we'd like to bring more middle manufacturing, that when jobs were sent overseas, when there was more desire for profit over the people of Wisconsin, that we can be selective and put working class people first when it comes to jobs and mega corporations.
Do you think you would be able to recruit corporations to come to Wisconsin to then be taken over by the state government?
No, I don't think that it would be responsible for the state to bring in a mega corporation.
All right.
That would potentially be run by the state. I think that we want to create good jobs with good benefits and ensure that people have the freedom to pursue the type of life they would like. And I think when I talk to voters all across the state, it is so much about being able to take care of themselves and their loved ones. There is deep concern about people who get to age with dignity in our state. I care a lot about our seniors and making sure that we're one of the states where there's a great opportunity for great public education.
Okay, so you say people want to take care of themselves, and I agree, but the socialist program is for the government to take care of people. And I know that you've bristled a little bit about anyone pointing out previous things that you have said, but I just want to show everybody on the board here. This is some of your far left posts. I would say they're pretty far left, right? It's, for example, you say abolish the Senate. You want ICE out of Wisconsin. I understand the abolishing ICE is something you probably still want, but you also said to defund the police 4 times. And you want to defund the police as a first step towards abolishing the police. Now, President Trump won Wisconsin twice. It is the ultimate purple state. I set my novel there for a reason. It is the place where you have to have the most appeal to both sides or to independent voters. Why shouldn't people take you at your word when you say that you want to defund the police and go towards abolishing it?
She's really holding her accountable for her rhetoric.
I actually give Fran credit for going on Fox.
Yeah, good point.
Dana, first of all, I have to say thank you so much for featuring my home state in your novel. And I believe that as a democratic socialist, what that means is that I would like to put working class people first over mega
corporations. How does defunding the police put working class people first? I mean, I think that you're about to enter into a general election, likely with Tom Tiffany, the Republican. That's not going to be an easy race. It's going to be very easy for people to put up on the board and say, you said abolish the Senate, defund the police, abolish the police. And why should they not believe that you would want to do that you would try to do that if you became governor?
I believe that people can evolve. We meet Trump voters from previous elections who now would like to vote for me, who have a sign in their yard.
So, name one Trump voter that would go for her. She's out of her mind.
Who needs to evolve, the voter
the
or
governor
you?
cannot defund the police, and I won't defund the police.
So
but
you
I
have
will
evolved.
invest in the things we know prevent crime, like getting guns off of our street, making sure there is victims for justice, that there are places where our kids can go after school and thrive. We can't be tough on causes. We have to be tough on causes if we would like to be tough on crime. And as governor, I cannot defund the police, and I've reminded folks that I won't defund the police.
She would, as governor, she would have all kinds of control over budgetary stuff. How much money goes into every municipality?
Okay. Well, that will be it'll be something that your opponent brings up. Here's a poll from Marquette. Always a good poll. This is Tom Tiffany up at 43 to 40 if you put you two up together. He also has quite a fundraising advantage, but I would say that the DSA candidates have a lot of volunteerism. Do you welcome the DSA endorsement and or volunteers to help on your campaign?
Well, I did not pursue the national DSA endorsement. My home chapter in Madison, we were so proud to run the free school meals campaign to make sure that our kids didn't have lunch debt. And I think that when you look at the polling right now, it's really so much about making sure that we're talking about the issues. And I think that when it comes to my opponent, it's wonderful to see that we have more donors and individual donations that he does, that we already are up in those numbers, because donations from 72 out of 72 counties, every state in the country. And the fact that our ground game is a multiracial, multi-generational, multi-faith.
I've read some pieces, big, long feature pieces where they've talked to. I just want to compliment you. I've read pieces where you've talked to Trump, where the reporters talk to Trump voters and say she's very affable. They kind of like what you have to say. It's going to be an interesting race. We will cover it. I have one last question for you. Are you personally a dues-paying member to the DSA?
In my home chapter in Madison, I have been since 2020, and I believe that as a democratic socialist, I'm less defined by just one organization, but clearly our bipartisan coalition means that I'm more defined by being a good single mom, that I am a service industry worker, that I truly believe in legislation that helps everyone. And these are the things that people want to talk about in rural and urban parts of the state.
All right. Francesca, we are bumping up against a break. We appreciate you coming on.
Dana, thank you so much for having me.
Okay.
There we are.
Mm-hmm. I love the bipartisan. She's bipartisan because she has Democrats and Democrat socialists.
Yeah,
that's the bipartisanship. That's the extent of what they've got.
Right. Well, and hat tip to Dan O'Donnell, because he, in his Monday episode, it was Monday, he went through quite a few things, and one of the things he said I thought was fantastic. He said for every time she says she won't defund the police, there's 50 pieces of evidence out there, whether it's tweets or emails or legislation she's done in Madison, that says she will.
Yep, no question.
She's a liar.
Well, let's go back to the beginning of really the modern socialist movement. Let's go back to Marx and Lenin and all those guys. Not only did they lie blatantly to the public, but they taught their followers to lie blatantly to the public so that they could gain authority and gain power.
That's a good point.
I mean, that has been their modus operandi from the beginning.
Yeah.
Well, first of all, count on the ignorance of your voters, count on their lack of understanding of basic economics, count on their desire to have security over freedom. Count on all those things because you have a sector of the society who would say that it's more important for me to be secure, for me to feel safe, for me to think that I'm going to have my basic needs met, than for me to be able to do and have that authority for myself, for me, or that opportunity for myself. There is that sector of a community that will always be there, and that's fine. I understand that that's the way they feel, but the United States is always built on individual freedom and unlimited opportunity, and that's what they are flying completely in the face of. And I'll predict right now that I think Francesca, if it is Francesca and it's Tom Tiffany, I believe she will get in the neighborhood of 45 to 46% of the vote.
It's going to be close.
Yeah, it's going to be. If it's 45, if it's 55-45, that's a landslide in Wisconsin. So
good point.
I don't think it'll be that big. I don't think it's going to be that big, but I will be shocked. No, not shocked. I'm not even going to be shocked. I'm going to be disappointed at the number of votes she's going to get, because here's the other. The other prediction I'll have is that there is. Going against her is a target-rich environment. There's so many things, as Dana Perino was pointing out. There's so many things you can go out and say. Look, you've said this, and now you're telling me this. What am I supposed to believe? You've been saying this for years. You've been a dues-paying member since 2020. We know what the DSA platform is and has been since 2020. But you don't think we should do any of these things at this time.
Right.
That's the phrase that.
But the day after inauguration, everything changes.
Once they get in office, as it's always been said, you can vote socialism in, you can't vote it out, because once they have authority, they don't give it up.
No, that's a good point. Well, and like you were saying, I mean, we as Wisconsin citizens have a very, very important decision to make.
Mm-hmm.
Are we going to trust the kinds of principles and American values that founded this nation? Things like Ronald Reagan always said, the government is not the solution to your problem. The government is the problem.
Right.
Or are we going to completely change course and put everything in the power of the government,
right,
and make demands that they see? That's the thing that bothers me the most. Like you were saying, it's not that they're lying to us. That a tiger is a tiger, as old Rush Limbaugh used to say when he was around. A tiger is a tiger. You can't get mad at the tiger for
being a tiger,
attacking a person. That's what they do.
Yep.
But what disappoints me, like you were saying, is all the people who fall for it.
Right.
It's right in front of your face. We can see through history what really happens to a society that goes this direction.
Yeah.
It has happened over and over again.
Yep.
Communists, socialists, Marxists, whatever you want to call them, they always end up failing in the end. And their people are left with misery because everyone's equally miserable, except for the people in power. They just take everything from you and leave you with the scraps.
Right. Now we're going to have to get a little deeper and a little heavier because we got to turn the magnifying glass on ourselves. One of the things, I mean, the only reason that you can have socialism coming up, there wasn't a lot of discussion of socialism in the United States in the 1980s and early 90s. I mean, there was strong economic growth. There was, people were excited about the fact that we had a bright future. There are people who don't believe that that's the case. And you've got an entire generation right now who do not see affordability or see affordability as a major problem, do not see home ownership as something that they can do in their lifetime, do not see the American dream that is available to them. And that needs to be addressed.
Yeah.
That's something we really do need to approach, because for those people, we can lecture to them all the time, all day long, about how socialism is bad. But if they're living in an apartment at $1,600 a month rent, which is frankly more than my mortgage, if they're having to do that and they see they can't get out of their parents' house until they're 30, they can't imagine how they're going to get into a home. These are the things that we're going to have to approach and explain. How are we going to provide the American dream for these people? And the role that government has in that, plain and simple, is to quit taking as much money out of their pockets.
Yes.
And putting it into the coffers in Madison and Washington, and allowing instead them to determine how they're going to spend their money.
Well, and it is, I think, a blessing that we are, at the same time that we're celebrating 250 years of these principles of liberty that founded this country, at the same exact time, we are debating going social, going socialist, going Marxist. And it's so fascinating to me because, like you're saying, it gives us the opportunity to talk about, there are some stark contrasts to the ways we approach problems. And I think healthcare and Obamacare was a perfect example of what not to do.
Right.
And it is one of those things, like you're saying, it's real for people. And that's one real example that we can give everybody to show this is what happens when the government takes control of an industry, the healthcare industry in this case. Did it make it better? And I would challenge everyone in the country, show me how it's better now than it was before.
Right.
You have fewer choices. That's Marxism.
Yep.
You always get fewer choices with Marxism and socialism. It's the same thing. I'm just going to call it what it is. It's Marxism. But you get fewer choices. Those choices are far more expensive. There's zero innovation. There's no reason for companies to innovate new ideas. I had this debate on what is it, Nextdoor, the app, with some people about how is this better for people when your options are limited, they're more expensive. Imagine a world where the government is not involved in any of healthcare. And people can go to whichever doctor they want that gives them the service they like. Those doctors can peel off from the major corporations and go start their own practice that innovates in a way that the bigger companies aren't doing, because big companies just don't innovate the same way as a small company does. But it's like, instead of expanding the market and expanding supply and demand and making more options, these people, these Marxists, want fewer options and more expensive.
Right.
Or am I wrong about that?
No, I mean, what you just defined is the free market.
Yes.
But
Thank you for summing it up.
Exactly. Put the free market into healthcare. I mean, that's something we've discussed here actually before. I've said, name another product or a service in America where not only the buyer nor the seller know what the price is.
Right.
You know, your doctor has no clue. The nurses don't have a clue. They don't know what it's going to cost you to do this because they don't know how you're paying. Are you paying with Medicaid, Medicare, private insurance, out of pocket? Prices are different for all of it. And that is mainly government driven. I mean, when government has gotten into healthcare as they have to the extent, you know, with Obamacare especially, you now have gotten to a point where, you know, you're exactly right. It's fewer choices and it's an inferior product. You know, why would we do this?
I forgot that part. Low quality.
Absolutely. I mean, the flip side is that if we, as you described, free market. I mean, the one thing government does do very well is confiscate money. Okay, fine. You want to take money and you want to redisperse it, so be it. But do it in vouchers that we can use for our healthcare purposes to say, we're going to go out and we're going to purchase it at Gunderson or Mayo or Muller Clinic. You know, if that's where we're going to go. Dr. Chris is going to see my problem with this. So if we have those opportunities, it is the spending power of the consumer that drives quality and availability.
Yeah.
That's what we need. And that is completely eliminated with the government because people believe, and what they will do and they will cite is that there will be people along the way who will not make the right choices for themselves, who will you know, fall through the cracks, if you will, and have problems. And those individuals will be the poster children for why we can't possibly allow them to make their choices on their own, which is basically what socialism is.
Yeah. You know? I think it's important that you brought that up. I'm really glad you did, because it was your old boss, Governor Walker, would always say, these programs should be, how did he put it? Not a hammock, but a
trampoline.
A trampoline, not a hammock.
Yep.
Because well said, because that is a really good visualization of giving people a hand up instead of making them completely dependent on a government program for the rest of their lives.
Right.
And the other thing that I mentioned on the podcast the other night is that what people like Hong do not tell you is that in order for her to go in and give you all of these wonderful gifts, they have to first confiscate from all of us. And that, look what happened to Venezuela.
Well, look what's happening in New York.
And New York, exactly. You know, I mean, good point.
The thing that we have in the United States, and this I'm trying to look at, you know, down the road as to what's going to happen in New York City, because with this second home tax that Mamdani has come up with, and where he thought
pied à terre, I think he called it.
The French, you know, I'm taking all your money.
Right.
Basically, you know, they realize how many people they've roped into this, and now you have to go and prove to the government that you are a New York resident. No, that's not your position. That's not your authority. And so the one thing that is missing in the whole equation is that we have mobility. New York is emptying out. They're leaving. They're going to Florida. They're going wherever they're going to go. So let's look down the road. You and I certainly can see the basic economics of this. Mamdani is providing services that he can't afford. So he's going to tax people who are no longer there. They're going to run out of money, which means they're going to bankrupt that city. All right.
Yep.
What's the next step? He's going to need a Democrat president and a Democrat Congress to bail him out.
Yep.
And that certainly will be something they will do, because it was an experiment that the unpatriotic, horrible Republicans didn't see the value of, and so they left. You know, that's going to be it. And so you and me and our tax money that's going to DC is going to be sent to New York City to bail them out. No, we need to be aware of that now. We need to be prepared for that now and make sure that that is not the answer that New York City gets to do. When you drive that city into a hole, I'm not bailing you out.
Right.
It's not my job. It's not my money. It's not my kids' money. It's not Wisconsin's money that is in any way going to bail out New York City. You idiots elected this moron, and he drove you into the ground. Not my problem.
Right. They have to live with those consequences of being stupid in their elections. You've said it over and over again. Elections have consequences, and they are really, really serious in this election cycle.
Yes. Yeah. And so what we're seeing here in Wisconsin, and this is the final prediction of the night, perhaps, but maybe not. But we're seeing here in Wisconsin is they're about to nominate Francesca Hong, who is a flawed candidate. I mean, she is no question about it. And there's so many different ways that we can attack her with just stupid things she's said, not just Marxist stuff, but just dumb stuff.
Yeah.
You know, just
well, she was ragging on Culver's cheese curds the other day.
Whatever. So it's great for the isthmus in Madison and the lunatics that live there, but for the rest of the country and the rest of the state, we just shake our heads. Again, keep in mind, she's going to get 45% of the vote at least. So, but what I'm predicting that we're going to see is what we saw in 2022. When we were supposed to have a red wave, the abortion issue crushed it. You know, the Supreme Court came out, said, you know, Roe versus Wade need to be overturned. The Democrats jumped all over that. The people who wanted Roe versus Wade overturned for so many years just went away and were like, okay, we got what we wanted. And it crushed a red wave. The blue wave that is supposed to happen because of, you know, all of the historical factors that are lining up, you know, the second term, midterm of a president, all these other types of things. Those things are in jeopardy in Wisconsin if Francesca Hong is the candidate, because frankly, everybody down the ballot, Steve Doyle, Jill Billings, everybody else needs to be held accountable for what the top of their ticket is saying. And you don't get to say, well, I don't agree with Francesca Hong on
then
this,
switch parties.
Yeah, exactly. Then are you supporting her? Are you going to endorse her? Are you voting for her? You know, if you are, then you clearly do.
Yes.
And so we need to hold those local candidates accountable. And so what I'm predicting is they are going to have to switch back to the abortion issue. What we will see once again is, because keep in mind what Roe versus Wade did was sent that decision back to the states. They didn't say, okay, abortion is legal everywhere or illegal everywhere. They didn't say that at all. They said this is not a national issue. This should be decided in the states, which means the governor and the legislature have that authority. They're going to have to swing to that point of view. And we cannot, number one, we cannot fall for it again. And number two, we have to go out and be articulate and defend our position on abortion and get back to the fact that she's a Marxist. She's going to take over everything. And you can have this red herring of abortion sitting out there and it will convince all the 25 to 35-year-old women, so be it. But you cannot continue to allow that to be the deciding factor in these elections.
Well, and it's pretty much a settled law in Wisconsin. So I see your point that they would try to strategery a little bit and make it the top issue everybody has to be worried about. But if I'm a candidate, I'm thinking, okay, this is settled law. What isn't settled law is the voucher program. Tara Johnson wants to eliminate all of the school choices, but Jim Green wants to expand school choices.
Right.
Those are the things that are not settled yet. So let's pivot back to the issues that matter to people on the ground.
Right. I understand that, but if school choice isn't settled, then neither is abortion, because you can change those laws. Anything that there's no such thing as settled law. You know, a new bill, a governor, you know, if the Democrats take over the legislature, if the Francesca Hong comes in, we can have unlimited abortion. No question. I mean,
that's a fair point.
For no reason. You know, you want to abort up until and even after birth, that's fine. We would allow that. They can pass that law. That's, again, it's the brilliance of what the Supreme Court said, but it's also the danger of what they said. The states can decide this. So we are not, yes, they can go out there and say, we're going to make abortion completely illegal. And for those who are truly pro-life, those who profess to say that they are concerned about unborn children, those who say this is a big issue, you better not sit this one out like you did in 22.
No, that's a good point.
You better not just say, oh, we won and we'll go home. This is that issue will be a battle every single time. And if the pro-lifers sit it out again, they will lose, and we will continue to lose.
I'm really glad you brought that up, because I was just talking about to a friend the other night this idea that how many Christians I've spoken with who just don't want to participate in politics, because they feel like there's just so much evil involved with it.
Right.
You know, the lying, the cheating, et cetera, et cetera. And the way I was articulating, I've been concerned about that for a long time, because the way I look at it, you've got a power struggle. And if there is truly evil in it, and I mean, we're all sinners and saints, right?
Right.
So no matter what we do, there's going to be some amount of sin involved. But if you've got a government, if you've got people getting involved in government who are evil, and all the good people separate themselves out of the system, it just creates more room for even more evil people to come in.
Of course.
So to your point, we need good Christian people getting involved in this process to make the balance better, at least.
Right. No
Or am I wrong about that?
Oh,
I mean,
no,
it boggles my mind with the Second Amendment's the same way.
Yep.
There's a lot of hunters and Second Amendment rights people who just sit out elections, and it boggles my mind.
Yep.
How do you defend your Second Amendment rights if you don't defend your Second Amendment rights?
Right. My vote doesn't count. They're all corrupt. They're all the same party. It's the uniparty. It's whatever excuse you want to come up with for why you don't vote or why you think you're above it all. Especially, and I'm a born again Christian, as are you. You know, we and have been most of my entire adult life.
Yeah.
But I certainly also understand that being in the world but not of the world doesn't mean I get to just sit this out.
Exactly.
That I'm just going to be a spectator of what happens to me around me. That is not what Christ said in the Great Commission. That we are to go out and preach in every corner of the earth, and it's certainly not how we're supposed to conduct ourselves in our society.
Right.
We're
supposed to let our light His light shine through us.
Correct.
And that means government too.
It's more than anything, I would say it's government. Yes, it's in your personal life so that those around you can have, but you cannot be a moralistic, upstanding Christian and simply allow for the secular world to take over, or worse, the Islamic Sharia law world to take over your government.
Good point.
That doesn't work. That's a contradiction in terms.
And we're seeing that happen in the Detroit area. Even in that place in Texas, they were trying to bring Sharia law into a community. These things are real.
Yep.
These things are actually happening.
Yep.
And as I said, I mean, we are blessed to live in a time when very serious consequences come out of our elections. It's fascinating to see what's happened and how this election cycle is shaping up.
All right. I agree. It's going to be, I think, well, I'll go another prediction. I think this is going to be mixed results for the DSA. It might even be less than stellar for them. They have elected some people in their primaries, but I'm not sure how successful they will be in their general election. There will be some socialists because they've won the Democratic primary in places where, my phone running as a Democrat gets elected. They're just brain dead. It's like, all right.
Illinois comes to mind immediately.
And certain corridors in New York City, unquestionably. So there will be some communists there, and that's fine. You can they can have their representation, they can have their opinion. They don't get to have the majority governing authority unless we provide it to them.
Yeah.
And that's what we're going to be fighting against. And so what I predict is that they won't be as successful this time, but it will build. And as you alluded to earlier, those who don't know history are doomed to repeat it. We've seen these cycles before.
Yep.
And these are mainly personality driven right now, but they're also economically and individually driven because, as I indicated, people are feeling disenfranchised from not only their vote, but also from their country, from the American dream. We need to get back to figuring out how we're going to do that, and being Democrat light by saying we're going to still have big government, it's going to be a little less, is not it.
No.
That's not how we're going to do it.
No, and actually, that's interesting. The way I put it yesterday, it was yesterday in the recap. I said back in, it was like 2002, 2003. I think I started talking about really warning the Democrats, even in my own family, to say, you guys, your party's moving way to the left, like Marxist left.
Yeah,
and here we are now, where we're in a situation where they're just right out in front of us.
Mm-hmm.
The DSA, the Democratic Socialists, I mean, they're talking about seizing the means of production as part of their platform.
Right.
So like when Hong was talking about bringing factories here, I'm like, yeah, so you can take control of them.
Well, yeah, but what she was saying is, no, we want middle-sized.
All right.
She doesn't want the large corporations. It's
not the mega corporations, she put it.
Again, the fundamental lack of understanding of basic economics is what, well, she certainly has. I mean, I many times think that a lot of Democratic leaders are going out there and they're counting on the economic ignorance of their voters. They know better, but they're counting on this. I'm not sure Francesca knows better. I think she really believes this stuff, that the socialists can come in and decide which companies are going to come to this state and which ones are going to succeed and which ones won't. And we'll still be able to have freedom and liberties and all these type of things. And I mean, I don't know what color the sky is in that world, but that's clearly, where she lives.
Yeah. Well, and I think that's the other part too that I think about is, you kind of mentioned it before. You can't go Democrat light. And the way I think about it, it's either liberty or tyranny. A little bit of Marxism it's not a thing.
Right.
You start moving in that direction, you're choosing tyranny. You're not choosing liberty.
Right.
And so we are at a time of choosing. Reagan talked about it in the 60s. Here we are again, the same cycle. We are in a time of choosing.
That's the title of his book.
Yeah, right on. It's fascinating to me how history is repeating itself.
Yeah.
And to your point, I mean, the idea that people are just kind of ignorant. And honestly, it makes me wonder if the way public education has been operating over the last couple of decades, it's on purpose for this type of reason, because they can sucker so many people based on what they're not teaching them. They're not teaching them these things that we're talking about.
Without question, Chris. I mean, we've discussed this, but without question, this has been by design for an entire
It's crazy
generation.
to me.
I mean, there used to be home economics. There used to be home finance. There used to be a lot of different things that we were taught, shop class and all these type of self
actual economics. I mean, that's a good point.
Right. I remember learning how to do a checkbook.
Exactly.
Things like that. My son didn't know what a checkbook was.
How do you balance a budget?
Right.
All these things that they don't teach anymore.
Exactly. My youngest son didn't understand the checkbook, didn't understand basic budgeting, all that kind of stuff, because none of that is taught in the schools. And one of the things that I think the only thing that upended all that, ironically, was COVID. Once COVID hit and parents got to see what was actually being taught in the classrooms, they were shocked. And we're starting, while there was a declining enrollment in schools, it's going up at a much bigger rate.
There was an exodus out of the public schools.
Because parents realized, my Lord, they're being indoctrinated. They're not being educated. They're being indoctrinated. And you see that, I mean, the teachers have gone through this for so many years. They've come out, the kids that came out and then went to college and got education degrees were all educated in the socialism, Marxism, and the whole idea that all of this can be done better. And frankly, we really, this is one area I don't necessarily fault them on. We really can't trust the parents with their children. All right. In most cases, we obviously can. They see those examples where they can't. And so they presume that's the case, in many instances.
They try to get everybody fitting into that same category.
And so they're going to protect all of the, I mean, again, I never think that people go in with an evil intent. There's a few, yes, but for the most part, they see, and I think teachers have seen over the past 20 years, maybe 30, the decline of the family unit, the decline of the ability for parents to actually parent, the inability for teachers to be able to then exert that discipline because that was taken away from them. And now we have to somehow defend these children from really bad parenting. That is a rare occasion, but it does exist probably in every school. And it's one of those things that, again, we need to address. We do have social problems. We have to address those social problems. And the Republicans have to be the party that has those answers.
Yeah.
And we do. We simply need to have people who are willing to go out and exert them.
Yeah, right on. And like you said it before, I think just the candidates articulating these ideas based in liberty. Right. That is the key. That is the answer to so many of our problems. The government should not be involved in a lot of stuff that they're getting involved in, or to the extent that they are. I mean, maybe it's the scale that's the problem. Maybe they should be involved to some extent, but the scale has just gotten out of control in some of these areas. But the idea is it's liberty or it's tyranny.
Yep.
It really comes down to that binary decision.
Yeah.
And if you're a little bit tyranny, you're tyranny.
Yep.
And it's going to be fascinating to see how this plays. And speaking of tyranny, there is this article, hat tip to the Epoch Times and Chris Summers for this one, talking about some of these ideas that are going on out there. Francesca Hong's Democrat lunatic party tried to get them to be able to vote twice.
Yeah.
People have sent in their mail-in ballots, and then all of a sudden, two candidates drop out of the race. So the Democrats and all their army of lawyers decided, let's file a lawsuit with the Wisconsin Elections Commission and try to allow these people to vote again, because we don't want their ballots to be worthless if they voted for those two people that already dropped out of the race. Yeah. So here's what it says in this article. Voters in Wisconsin have already sent in their absentee ballots for the state's primary on August 11th, will not be allowed to void them and request a new ballot. A judge has ruled. So in Dane County Circuit, Judge David Conway actually read the law.
Right. The law's very clear on this.
It is.
Yeah, you can't do it. You're familiar with the phrase "hoisted by your own petard." Basically, you've been undone by your own plan. The Democrats for a long time have said we need to have early voting, we need to have the absentee ballots, we need to have all this stuff, mainly so they can commit fraud. But I mean, they've had all these type of things,
right?
And so fine, all right, great. You've been successful in making sure that absentee ballots have gone out. They've now been sent back in, and the only thing we said was, if you vote and send it back in, you have voted. You don't get to then retrieve that and say, oh, it changes. Well, this Democratic primary is unlike anything we've ever seen. I mean, people are in, people are out. I mean, David Crowley, the Milwaukee County executive drops out. Then when Mandela Barnes can't go because he's got financial issues as well as a number of other problems.
Don't forget Rodriguez. I mean, there's probably some criminal activity in that one.
Absolutely. Sarah Rodriguez, just when all of those things started happening, the Democrats realized that, okay, we cannot have Francesca Hong. I mean, there are still some thinking Democrats in that party. And they're like, as I think we talked about earlier.
I think Kelda Royce actually gave an interview recently on WIZM locally, so hat tip to them. But she sounded at least reasonable for the most part.
Yeah, well, and you talked about Dan O'Donnell. Jessica McBride had him on a week ago Friday, or maybe it was last Friday. Yeah, a week ago Friday. And he was on for an hour. I mean, he would be their strongest candidate. If he were their nominee, they'd win.
You're talking about Joel Brennan?
I'm sorry, Joel Brennan. Who was that? Who did I say?
I was talking about Kelda Royce.
Yeah, right. So,
but Joel Brennan also has some common sense.
Right.
It seems.
Joel Brennan was on. I mean, he would win that. He would win that general election. He's a white man with reasonable point of view, and
Democrats,
he doesn't have a chance.
Yeah, Democrats won't win. That is so insane to me, but here we are.
Yeah, you can't win. So what happened here with these ballots is they were like, okay, Sarah Rodriguez has dropped out. David Crowley's dropped out. Both people have gotten votes. We need to be able to get those ballots back and recast our ballot. No. Your plan was that you get to vote early. We get to get all these ballots out to all the nursing homes, and then we'll go into the nursing homes and make sure we direct them how they're going to vote. All the stories that we've heard, which are absolutely true.
They happen.
All these things that have occurred. And now you're saying, oh, we want a do-over. No, I'm sorry. The law is very clear, and you don't get to do it. I think the Democrats knew that, and in this particular situation, the only reason they really filed this was to try and get some of this media attention.
So it was a publicity stunt.
I think part of it was because they needed to get the word out that, hey, Sarah Rodriguez is no longer on the ballot. David Crowley is going to come back in. We need to have people understand that there are other options other than Francesca Hong. But at this point, she's the last person standing. And so she's likely to be the nominee.
That is a good point. And I want to emphasize what you just said. This was it was probably done as a publicity stunt. Mm-hmm. And I think that's very, very important for everyone listening and watching to pay attention, because this race is going to be national news for the next several weeks. Be very careful what you believe, what sources you're getting it from.
Right.
Fact check everything, folks. Yeah. It is going to be, we are going to hear some crazy stuff, especially the lies and stuff they're trying to tell about Tom Tiffany.
Right.
But even regardless of that too, there is going to be so much just BS thrown around. Verify everything. Never trust no one in this election.
Right.
Except Tom Tiffany, because he's supportive.
There is absolutely no such thing as an unbiased reporter.
Right.
I mean, every reporter will say that they are. It doesn't exist.
Yeah.
And so all you need to determine is which bias you're willing to listen to,
and get multiple sources so you can understand the balance between all of them.
Right. Although keep in mind that most of the mainstream media just repeats what the other one is saying.
Well, good point.
You can hear the same story from 7 different sources because they all repeat that same, the same narrative.
That is a good point, and it inspires me to tell all of the listeners, this podcast is 100% without BS, with no corporate media BS here. So honestly, I think we talked about this before, podcasts. These are the trustworthy sources of information that you're going to get.
Well, we're definitely
because it's
biased.
Authentic. We are definitely biased, but we're going to give it to you straight.
Yeah, exactly right.
We're not going to BS people.
Right. We're not going to go in there and not only try to make you believe, but actually we believe that we're not biased. You know, it's incredible that any reporter in this country continues to think that. But
that anybody watches them and still thinks that they're fair and balanced. It's such a joke.
Right. And I'll throw in Fox News. I'll throw in the New York Times.
Everybody has a bias.
Now, you know, whatever. They all have a bias. And it just, again, it goes down to, who do you want to believe? Who do you want to get that new information from? And you can get from several different sources. The Epoch Times has a certain bias, no question about it.
Yep.
But it's, you know, thorough. Generally, as we talked before, for the most part, the BBC doesn't have a big bias toward our country. They're like, well, we'll just report what's going on, but they still will come out. And of course, the funniest thing, the most biased source. Well, the New York Times is probably the worst, but the most biased source in this country is absolutely convinced that they have no bias at all, and that's National Public Radio. I mean, it's laughable that they think that they're reporting in an unbiased way.
That is funny, and well, I mean, CNN, they talk about how great they are, how fair they are. They put some conservatives on every now and then, and all of a sudden they're fair and balanced. But it doesn't work that way.
Right.
Well, and I mean, we're getting pretty close to a full hour here. Sure. All right, so this one, I definitely wanted to hit on this because these are the kinds of things that keep me up at night.
Yep.
Everyone always said, oh, it's all a conspiracy theory. These elections are completely fair.
Right.
Everything's perfect. Everything is done perfectly. And then we get this story. New Jersey found thousands of illegal aliens registered in their voter rolls, and they proved at least 400 of them that they know of actually voted illegally in an election.
Right.
This is what keeps me up at night because Tony Evers won't even give up the data so that auditors can look and see if that's happening in our state.
Right.
I don't know. Or am I wrong? Should I not be concerned?
No, I mean, you should be more than concerned. You should be outraged because every vote that they cast does away with yours. You know, it eliminates yours. And so what we have seen for a long time, it goes back to when we were trying to pass voter ID in the legislature back in the mid 2000s.
Yeah. And God bless you guys for doing that too, because at least Wisconsin has that.
Yes. And Doyle continued to veto it. You know, Governor Doyle continued to veto it. After the third time, when we had eliminated every excuse, it's like, well, they can't afford to get this ID. They can't, they're locked in all this. After the third time, when we had addressed every one of those concerns, I said to the state media, I said, the only reason he's continuing to veto the voter ID bill is because he's counting on the fraud it allows to get elected. I knew there was fraud occurring in the middle 2000s. I mean, it's been around for a long time. They will continue to say it's not the case, and for the most part, in many communities, it's probably not. But there is, without a doubt, there is fraud that has occurred. And now with the millions of illegal aliens that are in, when you couple that with the idea that we're going to provide these aliens driver's license so that they can get to work, so that they can be productive members. Yes, they're here illegally, but they're going to be productive members of our society. And oh, by the way, when we send them the driver's license, we automatically register them to vote. Michigan does that. New Jersey does that. These people are on the voting rolls. And other than their willingness to say, look, I'm not here legally and I shouldn't vote, other than that, that's the only barrier we have. And keep in mind, you have individuals in the Democratic Party, especially, exclusively, I believe, going out, finding those individuals and helping them vote.
That's right.
Helping them being part of this wonderful country by illegally voting. And
Biden had an office in his White House that helped push that narrative to other bureaucrats.
Right. So the fact that our system is set up well. What we also have is loopholes that need to be closed, and you need to have governments and governors who are willing to have elections audited.
Yeah.
We cannot simply take them at their word. There is no elected official you should simply take at their word that everything is fine, all is well, nothing to see here.
Right.
That's whenever you hear that, whenever you hear any Republican, Democrat, doesn't matter. There's really nothing to see here. be very concerned and double down on your investigation. I mean, keep in mind, in Trump's first term, and I think we've talked about this, in Trump's first term, the Democrats spent 3 years investigating Russia's role in getting him elected.
Yep.
And it was at the end of that 3 years that finally the report came out by the Democrat selected lawyers who said, yeah, there wasn't really anything there. I mean, it didn't exist. Right.
Yep.
And it all went away. But 3 years and millions of dollars and tons of congressional time trying to investigate whether or not, and clear accusations that he was in the bag. But just a few months later, after that occurred, just a few months later, when 2020 came around and Joe Biden won, and there were, let's say, some anomalies. Okay?
Definitely,
like he got more votes than Obama ever saw.
Exactly.
You know, like he got more votes and a bigger majority than ever was seen before. When certain anomalies started showing up and we started raising those questions, we were immediately election deniers. Well, there wasn't a 3-year investigation. There wasn't congressional hearings. There wasn't millions of dollars. I'm simply an election denier. I'm now at this point starting to call the others election fraud deniers.
Yeah.
The election fraud exists. If you think it doesn't, you're now an election fraud denier. You can call me an election denier if you want. You're an election fraud denier.
Yeah.
And that is a much more dangerous position than somebody who wants to investigate whether or not it actually
shine the light on these things, get the transparency. Yep. Because you know what, it is interesting you bring that up too, because wasn't it one of the commentators I heard a few months ago saying in 2024, then when Trump wins re-election and Kamala gets far fewer votes than Biden got, and all of the people, I think it was on CNN, they were talking about, where did all these voters go that voted for Biden? Guess what? They never existed in the first place.
Exactly.
Y'all manufactured them because like you made a good point there, that idea that an old white senile man running for the White House from his basement got I think it was 10 million more votes than Obama.
Right. Yes.
One of the most vibrant campaigners in history.
Right.
That makes no sense in any universe.
Right.
Okay. No, it's incredible.
Yep.
And this voter integrity, this is what keeps me up at night, like I said. And this is why I wanted to bring it to everyone's attention. This Save America Act, this is still a thing. We're still waiting for it to get passed. It sounds like the Senate is still sitting on it. Yep. Do you see this moving at all?
No, I don't see the Republican Senate passing this at all. And they'll have, each of them will have different reasons. There's a handful of them who will not vote for it. They'll say that it's going to disenfranchise this group or disenfranchise that group, or it's going to be a problem here, there, whatever. None of those things are true. And as again, I continue to say, they're being Democrat light. Because now you're not going to vote for the SAVE Act. You think some of these Democrats who really despise you are going to say, well, she didn't vote for the SAVE Act. He didn't vote for the SAVE Act. And he stopped her or she stopped her. So I guess I'll vote for him. No, it's not going to happen. And the only thing that's going to happen is once the Democrats have the control, once again, of Congress and or the White House, all of that will go away and we won't be able to retrieve it again ever.
That's a good point. Because if the Democrats win in this fall election, man, everything comes to a screeching halt.
Yep.
The president's agenda, nothing's going to get done.
Right.
Absolutely nothing. The economy, I mean, who knows what's going to happen with that?
Yep.
All of the, it's just going to be a constant witch hunt for impeachment. They're going to just do all kinds of crazy things that are going to tank our economy again.
Yeah. No question. Well, first of all, they thrive. They think in their elections, they thrive when our economy is in trouble. So they're going to continue to want to slow it down and drive it down. And the impeachment, I mean, if President Trump understands what's going on, and I certainly he does, he will ignore the impeachment hearings. I mean, just ignore them. You'll never have enough to convict in the Senate. You are absolutely going to get impeached in the House. Who cares?
Right.
Who cares what these idiots think?
It's just more propaganda anyway.
Absolutely. I mean, you can come up with whatever charge you want, and go to whatever court, whatever kangaroo court you want, get 32 felonies from, out of thin air, whatever. I mean, it's all bullshit, and it needs to be ignored. Continue with the last 2 years you have to do as much as you can. The opportunity that's missed is all of the things that we could put in statute, we could put in law. All of the things that he's doing through executive order could be law, which cannot easily be overturned, and courts will have to defend.
Right.
But because the Republican Senate or the Republican House, whichever, at whatever given point is unwilling to do those things, it will get turned around as soon as a Democrat comes into the White House.
Yeah. Well, we teased it earlier, and I want to make sure we don't miss out. I have no segue for this.
Yeah, that's fine.
So let's just jump into it. There was an article that came out in the Urban Milwaukee, I think it was last week.
Yeah.
But it lists a series of people at the various communities throughout the state. And there are a list of a large number of lacrosse community leaders, I'm going to air quote that, who are supporting the anti-American Francesca Hong.
Right.
Let's go through this list. Meredith Garcia, lacrosse school board member. Emily Anderson, lacrosse county board supervisor. Kelly Leibold, lacrosse county board supervisor. Dylan Mader, lacrosse county board supervisor. Leah Mannock, lacrosse county. Grant Matthew, lacrosse county. Christy Tweed, lacrosse county. Davy Mayer Madison, of course. Blah, blah, blah. Let's go down a little bit further. We've got a Richland County, Sean Murphy Lopez. We've got a Rock County, Rodolfo Abarca. Another Rock County, Willow Wallace. Stevens Point, which isn't really the Cooley region, but it's in the area. Matt Moldenauer. Sun Prairie, again in the Madison area. Casey Drangler. And then former Trempealeau County Board Supervisor Gene Nutter. We got former Mayor of Viroqua, Karen Michelle. And then Weston Village, Nate Fieni. So the reason I wanted to make sure we closed on this, all the way down from world events through our state elections, and now right in our backyard, there are people in the, like I said, it's between tyranny and liberty. We have to choose. These people that I just named chose tyranny.
Yes, no question. And they will, I understand their defense. They'll say what we're doing it needs to be changed. Things aren't working and blah, 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 blah. And so what we need to do is go to a greater influence of government. Government, because all of us collectively will care more. We'll do more for our general public. We'll do more for the community. And the only reason that socialism or Marxism or communism hasn't worked in the past is because we weren't the ones doing it.
It wasn't the right people doing it.
If we have the right
Stalin killed millions, Mao killed millions, on and on throughout history. There is example after example. It always ends the same way.
Yep. Failure and abject poverty for millions of people.
Yep.
It's these leaders, especially in La Crosse County, doesn't surprise me. I mean, we have pockets of socialism in La Crosse County. I mean, La Crosse County is as far left as I think any community in the western Wisconsin. I don't know another one. Maybe Viroqua is a little further, but I mean, it's
maybe.
Yeah, I mean, we have absolute communists, and I've said this for some time. La Crosse has been on a consistent downslide for quite some time, but you're going to see a lot of, I will predict, again, just full of predictions. Francesca Hong will win the city of La Crosse, and she may in fact win La Crosse County. I think that I'm not quite willing to say that yet, but she will come close.
Yeah, it's going to be crazy to see how this all turns out.
Yeah.
But I wanted to make sure people understand, you said it, for decades, elections have consequences. Right. And these consequences in this election are incredibly serious.
Yep.
Folks have got to get off of their couches and cast a ballot in this one, because it's make or break.
Yeah.
If Hong wins, people are going to flood out of this state. They're going to move to places like Tennessee, Texas,
right,
Florida, the redder states of the even Iowa. Just go across the border to Iowa,
sure,
which is nice, is better than the economics we're going to see in Wisconsin. It's going to turn into Mamdani, New York City.
Yeah.
And it's only going to get worse.
Yep.
So we have to stop it right here, right now. I think Tom Tiffany put out a really good email about that. Like, Wisconsin must be the firewall to help stop this momentum from continuing any further.
Yes.
I think that's a great point.
No question. And keep in mind, we have to hold them accountable all the way down. Not only is the governor being elected, but so is your legislature.
Yes.
So we don't have a state senator up this time, but those districts that do, hold your state senator accountable. Every state legislator, every state assembly person is up for election. Find out where they where they stand. The only question is, are you voting for Francesca Hung or are you voting for Tom Tiffany? That's all I want to know out of Steve Doyle and Jill Billings and Tara Johnson. That's all I want. Are you voting for your nominee? And if you are, then you cannot in any way be classified as believing in the free market American dream of the United States and here in Wisconsin. You have simply gone to the dark side, and it cannot be tolerated any longer.
Yeah, well said. Anything I'm forgetting, sir?
Boy, let's hope this next month isn't as adventurous.
Oh my God! You know what? I think it's going to get even more intense.
Yes,
as I mentioned, I mean, this is national. You saw it, Dana Perino and Fox News.
Yep.
It's on CNN.
Yeah.
This Wisconsin is going to be national news for several weeks now.
Yeah.
And for good reason.
Yeah.
Because everyone sees just how important this is.
Well, the DSA and the Democratic Party, and I'm suggesting that they are two separate entities. But if the DSA recognizes the possibility that they have here, they have a governor as their nominee. I don't know where they have a governor's race. They can have that impact. They have U.S. Senate races and things like that, and that's important too. They're going to run their U.S. Senate candidates, but even if all of their DSA Senate candidates get elected, they got 5 people in the Senate, maybe tops. But to own a governorship, to own the governor's mansion in a swing state, I have to think that DSA is going to come in heavily, and they're going to invest heavily. And why would they not? I mean, this gives you the opportunity to show how wonderful your process can be and your system can be. And so I think they will, Dana Perino talked about or maybe the previous one about the funding disparity. That will be made up in a heartbeat.
Oh, yeah. They're going to make that up in no time.
Right. The
Soroses, all the crazy lunatics out there in Hollywood. I mean, they're going to pour money into this.
Absolutely. So they'll pour a ton of money in here. We will hear a lot of different things. And the bottom line is, the one thing I would continue to emphasize is when they've told you what they are, believe them. Francesca Hung, since 2020, has told us exactly who she is. There are tweets, there are press conferences, there's all kinds of footage on what she believes and what she is. When she comes out now, 2 months before an election and says, oh, I didn't believe any of that, do not believe that. Don't buy it. She is lying to you in order to get elected. Believe who she said she was.
Yeah, don't listen to her words. Look at her actions.
Correct.
Well said.
Yeah.
All right, sir. Thanks again for your time tonight.
Of course. We'll see you in a few weeks.
Yep. Take care and God bless.
Yeah, you too.
I want you.